Okay, welcome to flip teaching and my awesome videos. I'll make lots of mistakes and that's part of the fun, so let's just get started. We're going to start talking about relations and functions. Probably haven't heard functions, but you've been working with them, same with relations, and I think it's easier to give an example really. So in this case, let's talk about a relation. A relation is between x and y usually when we talking about coordinate planes, things like that. So we're usually talking about how do x and y relate, okay? So that's a relation, okay? And there's lots of different ways to represent these. So there's different ways to represent a relation. I'm going to talk about 4 of them. Number 1 is an ordered pair. We all know what that is, x comma y. Let's see if I can get all 4 across here. And, that just looks like 1, negative 2, 3, comma 5, maybe negative 4, comma 7 or something. Okay, so these are all representing a relation. When x is 1, y is a negative 2. When x is 3, y is a 5. So that's a relation between x and y, and we're very familiar with those. And I can write down this list of ordered pairs. Another way to do it, though, is with a table. Okay, and again, something we're very familiar with. We make an x and a y table. Maybe I should go to a different color. And we can do the same relation shown in a table, 1, negative 2, 3, 5, negative 4, 7. So nothing earth-shattering here, we're just getting some vocabulary down. And we want to make sure that we're able to go back and forth between these multiple representation. That's the new buzzword now in teaching math, is multiple representations. So let's do another representation of a relation besides the table and the ordered pair. We can represent this relation with a graph. And a graph would, of course, have 2 axes. We typically, horizontal axis is the x. The vertical axis is the y. We will label these with quadrants when both x and y are positive. That's your first quadrant. So you have plus, comma, plus, right? In the second quadrant, you have x is negative and y is positive. And in the third quadrant, you have both the x and the y are negative. And in the fourth quadrant, you have your x is positive, but your y is negative. Okay, so we want to just remember how we do our graphing on this coordinate system. And we could graph those same points on here, and hopefully you're able to do that still. I'll do it real quickly. 1, negative 2 would be down here. 3, 5. Somewhere up here. We have negative 4, 7. So I have to go negative 4 and up 7. It's going to be way up there somewhere. Okay, so we'll be doing some graphing, but I trust that you remember how to do that. Then finally, we want to talk about this 4th representation called mapping, where you just basically have this blob for input. So here's your input. And we have a set, and in that set for the input we have some numbers, 1, 4, we were doing 1, 3, and negative 4. And then we have a set that contains the output, and that set contains some numbers, and I'll just mix it up to show you what you can do. Maybe I wrote it this way, just to be different. And we map how the input relates to the output. When x is 1, y is negative 2. So you map it with an arrow. When x is 3, y is 5. So it doesn't have to line up side by side like in ordered pairs. And negative 4 and 7. Okay, so that would be a mapping. And here I wanted to get some very important vocabulary. I can't stress to you how important this vocabulary is. It's something we all complain about, that we don't seem to appreciate the value of this vocabulary. So here's something really important. let's see, maybe I'll switch colors. Okay. When we're talking about mapping input and output and all these other representations, we have what's called domain and range. And so when you're mapping, the input is called the domain and the output is called the range. And that's true for these other representations as well. Typically x is the input, you give an x, find y, and y is the output. So we would say the same thing, all your x coordinates is your domain, and all your y coordinates is your range. So you can think about it as x and y, you can think about it as input and output. Alright, so that's relation. Let's go talk about functions as a subset of relations. Okay, so remember, domain, input, or all your x coordinates, and range, output, or all your y coordinates. So we want to talk about functions. Functions start with a relation, but only some relations are functions, okay? And here's the official definition, and then we'll talk about how we're going to talk about it and use it. So, let me see if I can type this up. Okay, if each element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range, then that relation is a function. So that's kind of a mouthful, and this is the way I think about it. I say, for every x, there is one y, and I mean exactly one y. And you'll remember when we say exactly one, we mean one and only one. So it can't be 0, it can't be any other number, it has to be a 1. Okay, so this is the way I think about it. For every x, there has to be just one y. Okay, so we could add the just or the exactly or anything like that. Okay, and now you want to be really careful going back to some of our vocabulary. We're not necessarily saying the converse is true. This is not a one-to-one, okay? You have to be careful. It's for every x, there's only one y, okay? So make sure you're going in the correct direction when you think about this. So let's try some of these things for yourself, and I want you to try these problems. Okay, so you try this one. I'm going to give you a relation, and you're going to answer 3 questions. You're going to state the domain. You're going to state the range. And then you're going to tell us, is it a function or not? Or maybe it's just a relation. Okay. So here's the relation I'm going to give you. I'm going to use ordered pairs. 10, 3, 6, -2, 7, 4, and 6, -9. Okay, so those are my 4 ordered pairs in this relation. I'm going to pause it, you're going to think about it, you're going to write down the answers, and turn it back on, and I'll show you my answers. Okay, so I'm showing you my answers here, so hopefully you had time to finish, you paused it. You should have written down this domain is the set of numbers 10, 6, and 7. I don't have to write the 6 twice, even though it appeared twice. I state the range, and it is the set of numbers 3, -2, 4, -9. I'm just pulling off every one of those y values. And then I said, no, it is not a function, because I looked and I said, wow, when x was 6, y could be either a -2 or a -9. So that does not satisfy this requirement for every x, there's just one y. So I'm going to say, no, it's not a function. And we're done with that question. Let's try some more on the next page. Okay, here's one for you to try. Pause it, because in a minute I'm going to put up my answers. I want us to compare. Okay, I came up with a domain, -3, 0, 1, and 2, to range -7, -5, 3, and 4. I put them in ascending order to make my set a little prettier. And yes, it's a function. For every x, there is only one y. And one of your tip-offs here is that, you know, I've never listed an x twice, so there's no chance for it to have a second y. Does that make sense? So that's a tip-off that, of course, it's going to be a function. Let's try another one. Okay, try this one, same 3 questions, and give it a pause. Okay, you can see my domains and ranges are pretty straightforward. This is not a function. No, it's not a function, because when x is 2, y could be either 5 or 10. So that's the reason why. Don't get confused by the fact that the range, this 2 in the range set, has 2 possible inputs. That would be a converse, and we're not talking about that. Remember, we have to go x maps to y, and how is that going? Okay, try this one, same 3 questions, so give it a pause. And I simply wrote out my domain and range, as you can see, for those whole number values. We're sticking to the easy stuff right here because it's pretty hard to draw on this thing. And no, it's not a function, because you can see when x is 1, you have the 2 choices for y. Y could be a 0 or it could be a 2. So you just, knowing x is not enough to know which y it is. Okay, I have one more for you. And just go ahead and tell me whether or not you think this is a function or not. So pause it if you need to think about it for a minute. And the answer is yes, it is a function, okay? So again, it's one of those, don't be confused that it's not the converse. So when x is 0, you know y is 3. No ambiguity. Given an x, you'll be able to get to a single y. Okay? So that's all we needed to know, and that makes it a function. See you in class. Okay, let's get a little bit more vocabulary under our belt, and we're going to talk about which is the independent variable. In the language we've been using, this tends to be the input. Okay, so it's sort of this number is going to be this number no matter what. Okay, so you're going to start with this number, that's your input, and then you plug and chug to find the dependent variable, which is in this context our output. Okay, so you know, input tends to be domain, output, range. So this is kind of just more vocabulary in a different context. We tend to do things like y is equal to 3x minus 4 to be a linear function, and in this case x is your independent variable. You're going to choose it, and once you know what the value of x is, you'll be able to calculate the y value, which is the dependent variable, because the y value is depending on what the x value is. So we have that vocabulary to work with. We also want to do whether or not you have a one-to-one function. We talked about it being a function because there was, for every x, there's only one y. If a function is one-to-one, then it must be true for every y, there's only one x. So exactly, there's that exactly again. Okay, so here I have a relation, and I'm first going to decide if it's a function. And to do that, for every x, there's only one y. And that's true, because I have not repeated my x's. So then I look to say, okay, I have a function. Now, is it a one-to-one function? Is there a y value that has more than one x? That would be bad. So you're looking here and you're saying when y is -3, x was 1, okay? But look over here, and you see y was -3 when x was 5. So the idea is, when y is -3, you don't know which one it came from. Did it come from the 1 or did it come from the 5? Okay? So this is not a one-to-one function for that reason. Okay, we want to look at graphs and decide if things are functions by looking at the graph, and also decide if it's a one-to-one function by looking at the graph. And of course I have these two different graphs here. One's for a discrete function, one's a continuous function. These are just good for different applications. You know, you have your discrete functions when you're talking about things that only happen in whole numbers, you know, like the number of bunnies that you have in any day, right? Continuous, you know, how tall is somebody, because that's kind of a continuous thing. You can't have 1.5 bunnies, but you can be 5.5 feet tall, and everything in between. So looking at these, you want to say, okay, are they functions? So for every x, is there only one y? To do that, you can do what's called a vertical line test. If you can draw a vertical line, and it passes through, every time you do it, only one place, then it's a function. So when I go here, I'm saying, oh, it looks like a function. Looks like a function, looks like a function. But look at right here. That's a problem. Right here and here, I pass through 2 points, and therefore it is not a function. Because when x is whatever value that was, y was 2 different values for that one x. Okay? So the vertical line must intersect no more than, it can intersect 0, but no more than 1 point to be a function. Okay, so this one is not a function because of these two things right here, not a function. Okay, so let's look at this other one that's a continuous function, and I'm going to draw some vertical lines and see if I ever pass more than once. And then wherever I draw it, I'm only going to pass in one place. So everywhere, so it's a function. So this one is a function because it passes that vertical line test. However, I'm going to grab a new color. Let's do what we call a horizontal line test. And this is, in order to be one-to-one, the function must pass a horizontal line test. So let's look at this one. Here I'm only crossing one place, but here I'm crossing in more than one place. Therefore, it fails the therefore it fails the horizontal line test, and it is not a one-to-one function. So I'll take just another minute to show you what it looks like to be a function that is one-to-one on a graph. Okay, so here's a graph that we haven't looked at yet because it is a graph of a function, and we know it's a function because it's passing that vertical line test. Hi.
I'll not be here for advisory on Friday.
Oh.
I'm going to the service, so.
Yes, of course. Understood.
Yeah. Somebody know that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You need to be there. Hey, Matthew. Yeah, we'll miss you, but do what you can to support that family. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I've got
I have to go all the way back there.
since day one, so it's like
Here's my plate right here.
about 14 to 15 years.
So you even know my dad.
Yeah, I've known
So
her
great planning.
for very, very long
Sick,
time.
I don't like it.
You're getting sick?
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be very nice.
How
So
so?
let's go.
Do you want me to do it?
Add some
I
extra.
think they've covered it, and I think everybody's
When?
just getting the word out that it comes
This
out.
year?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
Jeff told me that I'm gonna go with Billy to one meeting tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great.
and then also could I ask you some questions about this Kazakhstan snap quiz that we got back?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, and I just blind copied you on emails I sent to the Shooting Club, so
Oh yeah, okay, I'll do that.
check it out later.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, I'm trying to like lure them in with bubble soccer. I think, we need a hook on these people.
That sounds fun.
You know?
Bubble soccer.
Bubble soccer is going to be awesome. I am so excited.
Oh, like
about
one of
bubble
those
soccer.
little plastic hamster balls. And
Yeah!
you stick the ball.
Yeah.
What
That's
are you guys doing this
awesome.
for keep? For the keep?
Wait, so have we not exchanged?
Oh, we do like
the
red.
hamster?
Oh my
wheel?
God.
Hamster balls turn out to be $1,000 a piece.
It's
Oh,
not just
seriously?
people, it's for everybody.
Seriously. Yes. So once we figured that, we just went back to the other one.
Bubble
Listen,
soccer.
they have an idea. Bubble soccer. We
Like
get
the
those
yes!
bubble balls.
That's
That's that's a fantastic idea.
I know.
What about so much better than
What
that
about the
ball?
ski trip?
We're
No,
gonna
no,
do
no.
both. We're gonna do both.
Yes.
And the ski trip?
Yeah.
2 days?
May. Oh, everybody keeps asking me. I don't know.
We just do it for 2 days.
Coach Furman said he might do it, and Mr.
Pretty good corrections.
Lieberman said that he would
I just have
chaperone.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we need to ask Mr.
Mr.
McMahon.
Lieberman.
Mr. McMahon?
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be that forever now.
So I'm gonna call him Mr. McMahon.
Are you really?
Yeah.
How would you do this one again? Is it like, is that it right here?
I'm not lying.
Well, you have to evaluate that number at 177. And then you have to say, how far am I from 177? Right?
Fifth sentence.
Well, no.
No, that's like the
Yeah.
thing.
Right. So you know you're plus or minus 3. So the distance
So
from
AG minus 3 equals.
from the center, 177.
What?
That accepted value is the center.
Yeah, sure. I'm
So it'd be
cheesy
x
from market
minus
toast.
H minus 177.
Yes.
Less than or equal to 8. 3.
Sandwich.
Okay.
No judgment, please. You judge.
I think I wasn't supposed to tell people about bubble soccer, but I'm so excited.
I also went to last night. I went to I attended a webinar.
Did
by,
you?
Yeah, by Gary and Shane, two of our trustees. But it was like
So
a back.
trustees from
Yeah, international trustees. Gary is like our district trustee. But it was about like it was back to school key club stuff, and it talked about the youth opportunities forum and dues and icon management and stuff. But they said that they recorded it and they'll be posting it online, so I'll find that and then.
So you had talked about the Youth Opportunity Fund. Did you have something specific in mind, or did we think about that?
Here, let me- here, you can help me
to do
So
a
I
5K,
can-
well, not a 5K, a walk or
Oh, I
something.
can do it. I
For
can
the
do it.
walk.
I can do it. Which one?
And then they also,
So for that one,
said
this is
that
like-
they're also
for that one, we
planning
start out-
on
well, that's the
talking
same as
about at
negative
their
X
next international
plus
board meeting,
negative X
talking
squared
about
plus
instead of having the YOF work on reimbursement for like, cause
So you'll have
usually
X
for the YOF, like once you get
plus
granted it,
9.
you have to pay for it up front
X
and then you'll be
minus
reimbursed by Keep Up
No,
afterwards.
so we can do
But at the
that.
next international board meetings, they're talking about
You get negative,
making
sorry,
it so
negative
that
X plus
it could
9.
be paid by Keep Up
And
up
X plus
front.
9.
That would be
for,
better. Yeah.
Because when
So
you do
that's
that,
what
you
they're
get
gonna
negative
talk
X
about.
squared.
Okay.
You have no X
Okay, what do you got?
They cancel out. Plus 3.
I got my pen.
You're confusing me.
Okay, sorry. Okay, for this one, it is negative X plus 3.
You just
Then X
What
plus
I
3.
did for
Yeah, so looking
here,
at 9,
Yeah.
that's 3.
Much better. That is correct.
That's the same as
Bring it out.
the negative X plus 3. Yeah.
and
And
then,
don't forget
I'm
to put
busy,
your
Mark.
units on something like this.
okay.
Yes, I am.
What are you doing now? What exactly is the problem?
Okay, that
Or,
you factor out the
like,
S.
well, I mean,
It's
I
a
know
less
that,
than.
yeah, I know that it's,
No, you get S squared. You factor that out. You get S squared
because
parentheses.
isn't it no
T
solution?
squared minus.
It is,
And then T
How
squared.
but you
would
can
minus
tell
one
that it's no solution
T
because
plus
this is
one,
an
T
and.
minus
It's
one.
supposed to be an and. Anything that's less than is and.
Oh, yeah,
Straight
right.
or is or.
Minus one.
And then,
So
Always
when you
look for
have an
no sign mistake, I
and, you're
never
looking
do.
for overlap, right? The
oh yeah, but
intersection.
there's no overlap.
Right.
Okay, so I was doing the quiz questions last night, and I just have some questions as to how to do some of the ones that I got wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see, for number 12, sorry, I just skipped to some of your questions.
Well,
Factor.
A.
So how would I factor that? Because, let me get a pencil.
I am in a gladiator.
Alright.
Okay, so the idea behind something like this, here, have a seat or we'll work it out. The idea behind these factoring problems, the very first thing you ever do in any of these problems is to look for a common factor.
Right.
So when you look here, they both have s squares. So I would take the s squared, comes out first. That leaves the t squared, and then it leaves minus 1.
Got it. And that would be the answer?
Well, you can actually factor this further. Now that you have this.
T minus 1 times T plus 1.
Exactly. Yeah, good job on that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, that makes so much sense. See, because what I was thinking was that I couldn't do that because it's T squared, and then I was confusing myself. What am I supposed to do? So,
Oh, yeah.
got that.
Common
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
Always.
Alright, so that's
What's up, Matthew? What else did you have?
Oh, I'm not sure how to go about
Look,
8B.
sandwich.
You're saying European not
That's beautiful, Jack.
If the femur is 50 centimeters, then make this calculation.
Okay.
So F is 50. So if you put that in there, if F is equal to 50, then H is equal to 177. Okay? So make that calculation. Then,
regular size.
you know you have to be plus or minus 3 of that. Okay, so that's your central value, right? So you're going to say,
No, yeah, you definitely.
how far is his actual height
The
from
absolute value is
what I think
greater
his height
The
is?
absolute
Greater
value
than-
of that
I know how to do it.
Yes.
No, it's not.
less
All
than or equal
Now,
to
you're gonna use
0.
password,
All real.
uppercut.
I told him that.
That makes sense.
Yep.
You look on your face.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Nobody talking about that.
I would have no chance.
So,
Yeah, the look on your face. I told him that. I told him how to do that.
We did not much.
I told him.
why would this be all?
You didn't. You showed it to me. I told you.
Oh my god.
Right, it's an identity, okay? So that's a great, you've answered this question.
Right.
Perfect. But this was also asked, how do you solve it? And the solution, what is the solution?
All real numbers because x equals x. Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay. See, algebra makes sense. If I like it. Yay! So,
Yeah, have my lunch in it. It's in multiple
To the end and adds to the middle.
I like this.
It's just that's right. A little bit.
See, that's the look when I shoot him before. That's surprise.
Ooh, a test.
Yeah.
They've got a test coming up for me tomorrow.
16. No, you said quiz.
Oh, no, not you.
So it is
You're not the only one in my class, dude.
Yeah.
So it is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Treat it as if it still is tomorrow.
What's the
If I don't get the okay, it doesn't mean I don't get the
So
no
when's the
go.
test?
what's
Wait,
Wait, you're not even on the gift question.
what's the AP test?
When's the test?
Next week.
I don't know what adds up to that.
Yes.
Alright.
Every day for you.
Why?
And yes. I like that. I like that go get 'em attitude. So I know you can do it.
You like the enthusiasm?
That's right. I like the enthusiasm.
You give me
When half of the
What's the AP test?
I don't know how to do it.
I see one on
No, wait.
Why can't
Yeah.
you
Treating me like that.
I'm nervous for this test.
Like, you're trying to figure
Yeah,
something out.
like, I can
Sure, it's
tell.
gonna cost $300.
Why can't you get our
I feel like
like our first, like our chapter 1, keep everything.
Like, you have to do it. Realize that.
hot.
Why should
But anyways, you were like, you're fine, you're fine.
Yes. Why can't we get you forever?
I just,
Yeah, let's make her,
Very classy. It looks like
Yeah,
you're
really.
ready.
No, I'm as.
refuse to, it's against the law to
I
fire.
know, but it looks like it's ready.
Because they would plan that you fire
The company Polo.
So when she comes back, you say, you did a horrible job, but they come, boom, gone.
I can't get it in any of the.
You need to be here. You need to be
I can't say anything.
Don't tell me come back.
I'm gonna go back to my room.
What are you doing?
I need to finish study history. Oh God, I don't know this. Let me help you. No, I do know it.
What do you mean? This is when you go for that.
What are you looking at now?
trick.
These people run this
What?
No.
You're running. Help me. Help.
Stop.
Help. Help me.
I've known her for 16 years.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, you got the less than and x of x less than 0 plus switching.
Alright.
And then that's right. 45 greater than x. Pretty neat.
How neat is that?
There's an active tree.
You were talking that tree.
That's the way it is.
Follow what it is.
So that covers everything is less than
That was good last year.
0. The overlaps.
Whoa.
Fix that. The first term.
Me and Ryan started so that everybody else could know instead.
Okay. We're gonna make sense of that.
So don't study for
Okay,
it.
do it again, do it again.
I'm gonna study for it because I.
Are you an H264 fan?
Goal is to switch out, right?
Yeah.
If you do well, he wants you to stay.
No, give me a whistle. Supposed to like.
If it's less than 0, you start at multiply it by zero.
You gotta.
So I go, is that why you need X is greater than 45. Is that why
He was saying, he's like, you got what you need. No, respect it. It's like,
Is that what you did that?
don't want to hurt. It's the big boy, but you
I just
want
don't
to
think
hurt.
those songs from last year. I can't find it at all.
But
If I do
I
not
respect
follow
it.
that,
I did that mention that was, I think you're pretty good, but
It goes so bad.
You're good at it,
I will show you.
I'll make test correction.
Ready? How was your summer?
I didn't.
Same here?
You're gonna do it.
There, definitely.
You have to put 0.
But there's all the other stuff we're doing. I was
Some friends who
Remember, it has to pose with us.
Miss Maker, are there test corrections?
This 7 or 3. Close circle.
See, then the.
I knew that there were test corrections.
Required.
Wait, is there any way we can make our test better if it's not?
Well, there's always a way. There are test corrections.
Did they add the points?
We're gonna look at the
They're
test.
home grade. Flexible.
Probably.
That was what she did.
You didn't play. Yeah, and I mean, I go to the library, so they're good here.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I can prove it. Oh, yes. No, not when you go.
his abs on the side.
I can help with what?
You have to do better.
What did you get for
People have done before, they don't do
C, 4 piece, and then sneeze 4 piece. I got negative 7 0.
Alright.
Okay, I'm not doing
I have a second.
Yeah. Solved.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Because the whole equation is equals 0.
You're fine.
E equals 0.
How
Now we have parentheses 0 plus 7.
I know, I didn't zero it on my face. So they weren't like,
Yeah,
they weren't
sometimes I don't
like
realize
right
what
here.
I'm saying. That's too bad.
After you get to it. Oh.
Right, so you gotta find whatever it says.
So I finished
Wait,
the
you
last
said, I was thinking 0 and then kind of
Zero and then.
Oh yeah, Guyver's Feather was hilarious.
Oh, good.
That used to be the picture.
Or we can just look at it and then tell him. Yes.
Okay.
That dog.
P
So,
equals
you
wanna make it?
minus 4 and
Started
that's
up.
right.
How you do that?
You
How you do that?
because you
Yeah,
have to set 4 P
That,
equals 0. 7 equals 0.
that's not sound.
It's okay. I'll explain this.
What is the distance from 4? Let me do it. If I ever say
What do you
something
need?
that's like
Better respect this.
do you want smaller than that or bigger than that?
Now watch the color.
It has to be greater than.
Oh, I have another question.
Not equal to.
It's not good.
Greater than,
There's the other
and that's it?
You graph both sides first and figure out where you overlap, and then you just graph it.
That's a hard problem.
This
This was his long one, it's gotten better.
That's so nice.
Oh, what is that? It's negative.
He's got a lot better.
Yeah, it doesn't have a big problem anywhere, but I think it was something that's 2/5 x is greater than equal.
So,
When x is a negative number, you multiply both sides by 5x. How do you do that?
Dude, what's our identity and what's the,
Oh, you identity is always true in the law. This is just long.
hey, we got class country. No,
I'm so confused about that though.
3 months ago.
So identity means always.
7 on the last place. I'm very sure. Yeah. And identity is always true. A conditional is sometimes true. So you're getting 2 points.
How do you know it's an identity?
If it's always true.
You're so cute.
But why is this not
Like,
only
over
33A?
like your the pace you make, it's so like correction. I think that's cool. I'm remembering everything or something.
Isn't that cute?
No, the other one. Like his face, it's like a puppy dog. Isn't it? Yeah. Look at this side. That's positive. You don't switch them, right?
What are you gonna do, ask random people?
So.
You're gonna do a survey?
Oh, that'd be your girlfriend. Let's.
Yes. I need a minute.
I might actually have to use what I typed.
The last one.
Well,
Alright.
that's a soul.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like red all over my face.
Sure, what number?
Oh.
Where's that? Wait, here.
No.
Alright, is this on the first page?
No.
It's not even a couple of dollars in there. Where is all of them? So you have to,
If I can just put in something else.
okay, yeah. So.
No, I'm saying?
Odd number. It's always gonna be 9x, 7x.
Yeah, you don't have the problem right there.
Then you have, there's some way to figure out
So,
the odd.
the problem is,
I hate this one, like, you have
Okay.
9x.
So
many
now,
That'll be 9x there, and then x.
when X is negative, you have to switch the direction. So you have to worry about
Because that's the person that has the.
I actually do have a question.
Wait, sure, is there some formula where you have like 8x plus 10
someone
or
else's
plus
form, but
1
I
for
also- I
quadratic?
need one for
To
myself.
find out how you break
Okay,
it up?
in the box right there, and
To
at the
find
very
out,
bottom
that's
of
just
the box
an
are
example,
blanks.
like there, a
Anyway,
quadratic
you put these
for a
together as
quadratic.
and,
If
right?
the x squared is
Let's say
an
we're
even
only
number in
good
front of
both
it,
ways.
is there a formula for like running 81, 2, 4 on the second one?
So that's the combined.
Guess and check?
Then you get the x plus 0.
I love guess and check. What?
Because it's an intersection.
You say shut up?
In the intersection, these both must be true. Okay.
No one tells Jack.
And then we'll do both.
No, fight on it like crazy.
Still with mixed both.
Oh, fuck you. So hard to even attack.
Okay.
Just like you.
We'll try the other one. If that's positive, you don't switch the sign. I love fun, okay. And so, X is positive, well, let's just do
What?
positive. But, sorry, you want.
It's greater than 6, it's also greater than that. So it's 245.
It's really easy.
Guy, the one you watched last week was the one you used to do. We already have one project. The guy with the song about the rage. The funny video. Drew, what was the thing? What was the funny video? Finding the donated Facebook graph. Yeah, what was the funny one? It was like, he started singing to the song and then worked out like one line there. What he say? Substituted chain for he was like, all bad boys with cane, heading down to the rain. And then like, some back to the rain.
Now that we have these two solutions, either one of these solutions is good. So you have to choose one between which one?
Mrs. Spanker, I just have a quick question. Hey, you gotta wait your turn. Jerry, wait your turn.
This one.
Oh, this is really quick.
Okay, the one through this. In your when you decide why would you do that? You're just trying to evaluate the right hand side. Remember, formulas are just about evaluating one side. So don't go left and
So
right.
should I do like 80 over 4?
Exactly.
Alright, Miss Finker.
Well, let me see the change. What do you do?
So, this combines to x is greater than 0. I got someone to do it for me, and we both got the same answer. X is greater than 0. Yet -1 still satisfies the.
This is why I'm no longer gonna do it.
Dude, there's something wrong with it. That's what I got. Okay. Thank you.
Because Eric, you
I thought you told me it was gonna be quick.
if you subtract 2, it'd be 5.
Sure.
Well, how did that happen? The same exact grade? I don't know. I had a tutor do it. I did it. It's like we all got the same answer. Like 5/3 or 5/3 or whatever. Or 15.
I remember putting it out, so I would do it first. Oh heck. Well, that's like the shift there. I don't have it. You want to come by the end of the day? We don't have it. Sorry. Yeah. Hey, Vasquez. Table tennis.
Together.
And I'm on the first one, so you can just drop. Yeah. Tomorrow we'll have. I don't know how to do it, but I got it right on my record. So I'm lecture hall.
Yes, I mean,
That's what you're supposed to do.
that's your one. While I was playing the lecture, I'll just move it to. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that, so just Thursday.
I'm pretty sure that's the wrong.
That's the right practice. Yeah. And then really
Are you today solving the variable?
Oh, they're all Thursday.
So.
Wait, Dad, can you explain that one? Because I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm using your bag.
All right.
Well, the same way afterwards.
Subtract this whole
Whoever
term.
shows up, lots of people
No,
show
drop
up.
the parentheses.
It's not really
We
important.
came last week.
I don't know, how many people came last
It
week?
helps me to drop the parentheses.
Last week, about like I think 10 or 13 people.
There's always a bunch of people.
I heard like Jack on. Is it 10 county points?
I think it's counting them, but I was surprised at how many Americans there were. There were a lot in the past. The kid who's like undefeated is American.
So do you need
I don't know his name.
I gotta go to
Alright, so.
Oh, wow. So this one. So you have to find an experiment this one. So it's 4 times 5.
Rips.
And then for this one, so you get comfy count.
I don't know how to do it, I just copied it.
Just so hard. And then y minus 3.
Okay, bye.
You feel tension in here right now?
Oh, yeah. What are you guys talking How
No, what you do, think of it like a quadrant. So if you're So if you do this like a quadrant, the first thing you want to do is back by 6 to the next simple plus 2. T squared minus factor of x. And it's s squared parentheses 2 minus a. Solve for x. Divide by the 2 minus a. B minus 4 minus a.
Thank you.
That's all. It's just like
See, I don't know about that.
it's just solving for an equation that looks. So that's the
Not this, the other
So,
side.
but what I would have done is, you're trying to get rid of this
Yes.
thing, and the problem is, it's
Thank you.
right now it's being mobile.
Yeah, you're not allowed to know.
Then I'm gonna update you a little bit, because I don't like that.
I don't care. I don't even know how my study guide is.
And that's what you're gonna
Wait, I
have.
want to send you.
So it's not the prettiest answer.
So on factor, that's it.
It is better than nothing, right? Okay.
Yeah, I need to do all I got to do is what is
Right.
X is always going to be 30. My graph. Zero counts. So all of them are conditional unless it's like this.
Because if you plug in one, it only works for X.
So X, so identity equals all of this.
Yeah, 75 days.
Yeah.
I know, I got identity. Go ahead and graph.
Okay, yeah, wait. You just explained my
Alright.
I don't
So you're really good at math,
About 10 minutes.
I don't know.
My last quiz question. And then I won't ask you anything more ever again, I promise.
There's a whole number.
I don't trust you. My quiz says definitely, no.
Okay, so I have to go with that. Oh my god, yes, thanks.
Wait, is that gum?
No.
That's the good one. Eric, one goes inside out.
That's probably. I may have figured this out, give me 1 second.
That number.
Why don't we just
Hold up, give me 1 second.
And then this one.
Jason only said,
not talk to you the whole day.
wait, really?
I'm talking to you the whole day.
Just say you count how many.
Ah, that's my question. What would I do from here?
Because you're dividing, right?
I do the exit.
Any of that.
So 39. She's up to 38. 39. 39. You said 26.
Lunch, right?
No, I multiply by
2 serve.
I do know. Oh, wait. No. I could have like an aneurysm. Again, but it was not
Ah, I get you.
After I write down mine. Wait. She might send this in. I think I'm right.
Yeah, it is right. That's what was up on the board. So I just got it.
You should take conditional. You can't base on it's an absolute value, so you take AX or A2X. It's an absolute value, it has to be which one?
So I did a wrong side of condition.
Yeah, I'm sure I do, and I'm just saying, you can't I don't know, it's different way. And I did it even
Not very good, but it's mine's not about one. I'm already
Well,
then it's all wrong. Then you went away. I don't know.
Okay, so when I get no, that was one where you messed up.
I owe you those two. I'm sorry. Because you just did not give me an opposite. I'm sorry. An opposite is that you're all like, she was absolutely
Look at my blue pen, it's right.
all right. I understand why I still don't understand why.
We're gonna do this whole thing.
Unless they
I did say.
The reason is because
So,
every
the
point
absolute value
on
is
the graph,
is the middle that you
every x
equate.
value on the graph.
I don't want to say anything wrong. Oh, yes.
Help me with this.
So this is and you have plus or minus 3 for summing. Yeah, I know. I didn't finish it right, but the absolute value.
Cool, thanks, Nick. If you're more than two, then you're not.
you count simplify because it's minus.
I also understand how
If like it's 2x minus 2 and take the same out.
You add 177 to now you add a negative, which gives you different plus or negative.
It gives you the maximum minimum.
How do you, well, this is your answer right here.
Let's translate. 8 equals x times 50. Write that down.
You divide by positive.
Why would this
And then 1 divide by 5.
be? I understand why it'd be less than 1.
Where do you plug in?
Because the temperature could be 5 below. So it should be 3/4. Plus or minus 5. Today, and I was
If you divide by negative, you divide by
That's so, yeah, you have the, you only have one thing, you have the absolute value. It's just like you have the number line, the middle digit. From the middle to the right side. Oh. Good boy. No, it's not. Oh, no, that's wrong.
I hate God. Look, we didn't make this. I did 85.
You missed both. What is this nuts?
Yes.
60.
Okay. You all have to turn the I'm really like I'm trying to miss.
Hey, when is our, what's our
I've already graded.
math project tomorrow?
Yeah, I did the project. Oh, but don't forget you just grab that. I have that.
Oh, we did this yesterday with Evan.
You got your long-term
I mean, I
project.
like did all the equations, but I don't know.
Jack, what was the project?
It looks like 5D.
I think so. I know, that's all I wanted. Yeah, that was the solution. I was just, yes. No, that's right. No solution, yeah, because they have to have it in the lab. Okay, but no,
So you're like for sure.
How do you do
Wait, what was it?
5D.
There's 2 answers. Yeah.
then I guess I'll say
What's the second one? 0?
Zero, yeah.
X is greater than 0. X is
Less than negative.
Negative 3/5. Why is it greater than 0?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because it's a denominator. It has to be greater than 0. I remember now, because since X is the denominator, it cannot be 0. X is the denominator.
Call the denominator.
But in the last domain, it would be X, Y.
Next
Not necessarily. If you see that, it's right.
Right in.
In this case, it's greater than 0.
Where the half of it would be 6 away from 10.
What if X is greater than?
X is greater than 0. I know it can't be 0, but
See, this is a good thing.
So you just have to
get both sides. And then is it? Yeah.
this one.
She did that all the time.
Just like to make sure. Is that this?
It's like all of those.
Percentages, but I don't know how to do like percent of this.
I got it right, but I like this fractional to like you should
that would be like.
it's one winter and all over the no, like I decided okay. It's just whole.
Put it in 2,000 each house.
42. It goes like 42 by small, not whole, then whole, then here, the dash, and then irrational. So this would also be
No, actually, it's.
no, if it's like I'm a small, yeah, I'm a small, and then just like work your way out. Like whenever I look at a fraction, is it a natural number? No. And then if it, I know if it's yes, and just you do all.
All 3 and 10, so is it 3?
I have a picture.
Feel free to write on that packet.
Here, this is like the best thing I've found. Identity. Thank you. And exactly. Okay. You're so
Ones that have like 0.5.
It's irrational if it doesn't repeat, that it doesn't terminate.
I
I don't know how to do that. Is that negative? You just 107.
Kind of.
Oh God. That's 2y minus 60.
This one was also a number that does not go on forever. And then this one, there was no solution.
Okay, they has the power outage.
So sorry, it's not.
Oh my gosh, it's so much easier.
Oh, yeah, then oh god, why is there Q? What the heck? Don't ignore Q.
Oh, boy.
Oh, this is bony chick. Oh.
Wait, Jack. For this one, you would get 2 minus x plus 5 with the negative x plus
Negative x minus 2 minus 2 positive. It's a positive minus 3. But you get the negative 2 minus 3. Should be the negative. No. What? Okay. I'm in the problem.
Like any number
Hey, I got you.
So 2 is a. So 2 is not.
Oh, okay, I see it again. Because this is it. Remember, I said the original state. X is greater than 0. And greater than negative. So it has to be greater than 0.
One day.
Okay, so we know. You see this original state?
No, it goes.
It's saying that X is greater than 0. So you keep working.
This one?
Original state is X.
Oh, but you're like the odd man out, right?
So if it's greater
I always see you eating.
When you draw an arrow, it has to be like, I just copied all your notes just so I can figure out what I did.
True. Do you distribute because the fraction bar is moving something? Okay.
That, I didn't really know either, I just did a line.
Now I'm getting all the way that way.
Well, if you can figure out where the sign goes, maybe. But this one is hard. It's on the chart. It's a teacher. Are they good ones?
It's math.
Is that one?
It doesn't matter. So this is saying
Yeah, she doesn't tell me.
you could put X. But I want the apples. It's just saying if it's greater than 0, it's less. You know what? If X is less than 0,
Wait, this picture, that picture saved my life. That picture is the best thing. Where's like all of these are real numbers, and then so like if it's pictures and all of those, if it fits in there.
With the test?
Yep.
Buddy?
So enter.
Decimals and negatives. The decimals that don't add behind the back.
Oh my god.
Shoot.
That one's good. Anyone in the class actually? Sorry. You're good, you're good.
Drew, you sitting there?
Yeah.
I'm sitting right here. I'm sitting right here.
That's my seat today.
Really?
Okay, we're good.
I forgot my calculator.
Are you sure? Yes.
Eric, you got your calculator? No, you don't need a calculator. Oh yeah, you're not allowed to use it.
Wow.
Don't squeeze it. Chase, don't you say that. Squeeze my Twinkie. Chase, keep it clean. Thank you. Don't sit there. Squeeze my Twinkie.
Okay, come on, more 6, even number.
Really, you're gonna be like that? How do you feel?
Oh my goodness. Eric, you know that one you fight Eric.
Every single day I
It's not the bad
The only
Okay.
fun part is.
Do you know how when you do?
No, the fun part is. What?
You know when you do the T-chart, you have to have X less than 0, X greater than 0. Remember that? The original statement has to be the last line. Yes, it's the last line. But you should have one is missing. X is less than negative. That's all. So it's the same.
Can we take a test?
Sorry, I'm not showing any work. I'm trying to multiply.
Tori was like, yay,
It was
practice.
X.
No.
Greater than negative.
I'm not paying for this.
Wait for it. I'm just going to
I look free.
Record per player.
You're so mad.
Did you get that?
Have a hug, guys.
Okay, is there a hug day?
I looked at the prices to get Orioles. If they go to the World Series.
It's a hug day. Megan, do you want a hug?
I give out 3 hugs.
Jack, come here.
Jack.
Taylor loves to check you up.
Hug me,
I got a
bro.
good hug.
I thought we were Drake and Josh today.
Drake and Josh is awesome. Though. Is everyone finding
Who's on
I
team
take
lady?
my backpack off.
Jay says
They're
Cootie.
so,
No, this is
they're so,
Microsoft. This is
they're so
Microsoft.
awkward.
Jack, it was the episode where
Hey, slaps it hurts. He like.
what they said very calling girls.
Oh, I love that one, Buddy and Guy.
Buddy and guy.
Buddy and Guy.
I like Indian hugs.
My hugs slightly a lot. I do get good hugs.
I give the best hug.
No, I've been told by other people that I get good hugs.
Wow,
Yeah.
other people.
Adults.
If you could be less specific.
Yeah, I've been told by people.
Do you really know what an
Our
adult
grade
training is?
and adults.
Do you think we all care that your mom says you have good hugs?
And ha, was my mom. Ha.
Your dad.
Can I just like put a desk on top of
Oh, let's turn the volume down a little
Where,
bit.
where would you like our correct?
I didn't enjoy that. That was not that.
Inside voice, please.
Where would you like a correction?
On the bin. Top bin, that's the way to go.
Dude, Eric.
just stapler to
Yeah, I won't. Wait, what?
This finger. Should I put my quiz in there too?
I will do it.
Oh, quiz correction.
Eric, I'll do it.
They're due for you today if you take the test.
No, this is like my quiz, my take-home quiz.
Oh, yeah. So actually put that on.
The nuts.
I took it the same way you guys did, so. Can you put that on the chair, please?
No.
Thank you.
Eric, what did you say to do? Staple for you.
Where would you like to?
What?
On the front.
Andrew, quit hogging the stapler, okay?
Wait, I got my other one.
What I turned it in.
Wait, do we staple to the front?
I stapled it to the back. I don't think it matters. Does it matter if we staple the corrections to the front or the back?
Time to finish.
Whee! Ah, I need to get my back.
First class,
Where do we put it?
Right there.
I think everybody pretty much did.
Wait, do you need
Jack.
do you need corrections on the front? Wait, Miss Finger, do you need to staple on the front?
It doesn't have to.
Okay, that's half.
Can I write on the board for scratch?
Yeah, did you even erase that?
So you said, oh, yeah, I'm probably like that. Ooh.
Can I keep that up?
What does that mean?
Look, it's not, I honestly, I think you'll be fine, you know, make sure, because it is a long test, that you.
Distracting me.
Yeah, seriously, sit down.
Just make her come in. Can I keep that up?
No. That you manage your time wisely. So there are several questions that are short answer questions. Make sure you answer those. Those are quick and easy. Make sure you get to those. If you're struggling on a problem, if it's taking a long time, skip it, come back to it later. Make sure you have enough time to answer the easy questions for you. Whichever ones are easy.
1/8 is 0.125.
Oh! Alright, but I think you should have plenty of time to finish. Just work steady. Okay? Don't be messing around.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
Our Father.
Alright, and don't forget this homework. No, it's on your sheet. It's on your sheet. No rest for the weary.
What block is this? W.
B, please. This is B.
What is it?
Where did they go?
Right here.
My patron.
Well, if you'll want to staple it together, we'll do that. It's no problem. I will say, there was I forgot to add something on the directions. That's fairly obvious, but let me, I'll put it on the board. You're not there yet. That's fine. So there's a little additional instructions for number 3. I always try to say it's possible, and I
You
try to
wrote
say it's
state
possible.
that. I
State
think it's
that?
state that. So do I get a jolly rancher? I'm checking.
Jack, I hope you never get a Jolly Rancher.
Just check.
For number 3. Is number 3?
A, B, and C.
3, A, B, and C.
You can't back.
I'm sorry? This is an expanded directions for number 3.
You said we weren't
You said what?
You said we weren't gonna be there.
That's Jolly Rancher.
But you're working on the problem with absolute-ish, right? Absolute value, the distance and everything. It's not asking for that, it's asking for internal notation. So be careful what it's asking for. Absolute value, the internal notation so that you don't break those. So that was this one here. We did these. Oh, not that, sorry, wrong one. This one. Right, let's read all these interval notations.
Okay.
So, do you remember these?
I think so.
Let me see if I can. This is my last one.
I know I have a copy of that.
Yeah, yeah, so look at them. But, so, I would do this and I would have to go back to what I got, right? No, you can't do things with that one, so because one's open and one's closed. It should be the same.
Yes, help yourself.
understand that though.
Until 2:01, so you got plenty of time.
I guess I flipped you over.
get that one right? Because I'm worried about them. Well, like the park critic. I did the same thing with the other one. Here.
All right, you want to be making sure you've answered all the short answers because the bell's going to ring soon. Okay, so to make sure it's one-to-one, you have to first do the vertical line test to see if it really is a function at all. In the vertical line test, keep drawing these vertical lines, and I'm only ever crossing in one place every time I do that. Here's one place, one place. So indeed, it's going to pass that vertical line test. So yes, it's a function. But is it a one-to-one function would be decided by the horizontal line test. Let's see if I can find a different color for that. And if you draw a horizontal line, and remember, I'm looking to see whether or not I'm intersecting the red graph, one place, intersecting that red graph in just this one place. And everywhere I can imagine drawing that horizontal line, I'm only ever going to cross the graph in one place. So yes, it passes the horizontal line test. So yes, it is a one-to-one function. Okay, this video is long enough already, so we're just going to have to cover function notation in class tomorrow, and we'll call it a night. I'll see you tomorrow.